Hi, loves. Today, I want to talk to you about triggers. With the recent news of the mass shootings in schools in the United States, I noticed that I've been having lots of emotions about it, lots of feelings about it. And I try not to get political, especially on this medium. So I won't get into that train of thought. But it breaks my heart. It does. And it brings up lots of feelings of helplessness, feelings of hurt, um, distress. And if I have to put it bluntly, it feels a bit triggering, especially the attacks that have been um, that have been targeted towards a particular demographic of people. Um, and also that innocent lives are being pulled out in this horrific way. And my heart goes out to those families and friends of the people that were impacted. And I sincerely hope that none of us will ever have to experience something like that. Now, that takes me into triggers because a trigger really is an event or a situation that launches us into feel intense emotional feelings or reactions. And sometimes it's very apparent what it is, and sometimes it's not. So, I want to talk a little bit about triggers and how we can manage them because so many things happen in our world, things that are within our control and things that are not. And it's important to understand how we react. And when we have one of those intense reactions, think about why I had that reaction or why I have that feeling and what you can do about it or how you can work through it. And I've done videos previously about checking in with yourself. And this is part of that process. You'll hear checking in with yourself so often because it's so important to stay in touch with what we're feeling. And a lot of times, connecting the dots between the reactions that we have outwardly to things that are happening with us internally. And it's not black and white, it's not a straight line. There's many peaks and valleys, and there's a very large journey that happens. It's not a destination. It's just that a journey, and so some days will be better than others. But what's important is staying mindful, staying aware, and I want to say that some things you can do around your triggers is pay attention to your body and your mind. What reaction am I having bodily? Am I outraged? Am I like shouting? Am I like withdrawn? Am I shaking? Am I sweating? Am I having a nervous tick? Like, am I picking my nails or biting my fingers? Am I pulling my hair? Because people have different reactions to different things. Some people, I know people that pick their eyebrows out. Some people play with their ears. Some people, I think I have one of this bad habit. I bite my nails or the corners of my nails. And something I've actually recognized about myself is when I'm really going through a season of stress, I pick myself. Like I literally dig my skin. Um, and I became aware of it like far down that road, and I've had to, like, if I notice that I've started digging myself, I check myself. I'm like, oh, I'm doing this action. What do I need to do to pull back out of it, or what around me is triggering that? And also our minds. Did we all of a sudden start to feel sad, or are we having, like, just think through, just being aware of what is happening with your body and your mind. What are your thoughts? Are you having racing thoughts? What are they about? um and sometimes you need to stop and step back. You deserve that space to come to terms with what's happening around you and reflect on it, for a moment. Sometimes it's just a passive moment. Sometimes we need a few moments. Sometimes we need a day. Depends on what's happening. But take that time to step back and reflect and determine the cause of that intense emotion or reaction that you're having. That is okay. You need to give yourself that time and that space. And be curious. Be curious. Sometimes things are very apparent, obvious. Sometimes they're not. Be curious about, why am I feeling certain things and what could have triggered it. Be curious about that and acknowledge those feelings, Come to terms with, this is what I'm feeling, this is why. And I know some people are very ready to do that work and very in tune with themselves, and they have a lot more awareness about themselves and their feelings and how they navigate through life, even though you can't correct everything, but you have that awareness. But some people actually do not want to do that work, or they don't know how, or they retreat. They try to find an out if something uncomfortable comes up. And sometimes you do need a little bit of out, but don't bury it. If you take some time away from it, come back to it and be curious about what it is, why it is, and what you can do about it, or how you can start working through that. And acknowledge those feelings. And then have an open mind on how you can start addressing some of these things. I know culturally, some people or some cultures shun the fact that there are mental things that we need to work through. Some of it's like, buck up and, power through it because you're strong or whatever, or we've gotten through worse, we'll get through it. And that's great. But we also need to open our minds to the fact that there are many different ways to deal with things. And sometimes putting in that work to work on our mental abilities, our mental senses, our mental health and wellness is okay. And sometimes that means talking to a trusted friend. Sometimes that means journaling. You can start a journal of feelings. Every time you have an immense or intense emotion or feeling, you can journal that. And what that will help you to do is start to track this stuff similarly to how you track or journal your food. So you can pick up patterns and you can see lead ups and, reactions. So it's a little bit difficult to do if you're not already that kind of person that likes to journal, but try it. It may or may not work for you, but try that. And another option is to talk to a counselor or a therapist. Give it a try. Sometimes the start of that can take a time because you need to, talk through things and build a foundation with a new therapist, but it's okay. And sometimes that is actually better than talking to someone that knows you or a friend, because you want to ensure that the vulnerabilities that you're sharing are protected. And that's sometimes the difference between talking with a friend and speaking with a professional. And so there doesn't have to be anything wrong with you for you to go and seek out a therapist or some counseling. Consider that as a mental checkup or just, maintenance work. So keep an open mind. And, some people like me, I get healing and I get to work through things by talking through things. Sometimes it's talking to myself. I'm not crazy. I don't respond back most of the time. But I do talk out my feelings. And I feel like if I'm not able to talk them out or talk through them, then I feel stuck or I feel suppressed. So that's how I communicate, or that's how I work through things, is that I talk through them. But not everyone's like that. So find a mechanism that works for you. And if it's not talking it out, that's okay. Maybe it's journaling it out. But keep an open mind. And sometimes what you need to give yourself some of that space is physical activity. And I'm working on this too and getting more active. Pick up a sport or something that engages you physically, because studies have shown that physical activity does help with mental stability. I don't say it cures it, but it helps it. So give it a try. You never know. And I know this is a longer post, but this was something that it's been resting on my mind because I myself have been having some triggers around the quick succession of shootings that have happened recently and just feeling overwhelmed by them and wanting to say something and wanting to, of course, be sure that I'm being constructive in what I share. And it's okay to struggle with that sometimes. But you know what? Talk to somebody that can relate. So, also, I could not wrap up if I do not remind you to please like, subscribe to my channel, share the content. It will help someone, anyone. And please comment, engage, and let me know how you like this and any suggestions that you might have. And have a fantastic day and keep your eyes peeled and in tune with what you feel and what might be your triggers. Sometimes you might see them quickly, and a lot of times someone might raise them to you. Have a blessed day.